So today we're going to talk about an area called Steele Creek. Steele Creek is in the southwest part of Charlotte, just south of the airport, and it really sits in between Lake Wylie, the Catawba River, and 485 Loop. If you Google Steele Creek, the map will show you a little bit of a smaller region. We're going to talk about all of these little adjacent pockets around there, because in reality, when we're talking to people, we reference Steele Creek, we're really kind of talking about this entire region, not just this small section that you'll see pull up on Google Maps. There are about 75,000 people that live in the Steele Creek area, and that population has tripled, over the span of 20 years. And so it's one of the fastest growing, areas in all of Charlotte. And it's kind of interesting because even the stats speak to that. It really is often overlooked when we talk about people and where they want to live and what people may be looking for, whether it be access to nature, to wildlife, to shopping, restaurants. A lot of times the names that get brought up are South Charlotte, the big ones like Dilworth, Plaza Midwood. Then of course you have some pockets to the north in Huntersville, on Lake Norman. Those are the really popular ones. Of course, the cost to live in these neighborhoods definitely impacts everything. And so Steele Creek will oftentimes, be a more affordable option in many cases. However, the price ranges here in Steele Creek, we're talking anywhere from like $200,000 all the way up to north of $5 million. So you have extreme luxury resort style, exclusive neighborhoods. And then you also have a lot of other more affordable options, family friendly neighborhoods. We're going to dive into all these details. Now, the median age in Steele Creek is about 37, pretty similar to most of Charlotte. There are two high schools here. You have Olympic High School and Palisades High School. Olympic is rated a 5 out of 10. Palisades is 8 out of 10. That's according to greatschools.org. Of course, there are other websites that you can check out to see those ratings as well. You have 2 middle schools and 7 elementary schools. Steele Creek is going to be thought of in a lot of people's minds as maybe sort of, a little bit further out, right? Some people will think of the Palisades. Palisades is going to be the furthest out to the west, right on the shores of Lake Wylie. And quite honestly, it is it's almost on an island, so to speak of. So, the Palisades is going to have this all-inclusive feel, but it's going to be quite a bit of a drive to get into Uptown. The other thing that comes to mind, I would say, for Steele Creek is commercial. You have a few different commercial districts, things like you have the Westinghouse Boulevard, Shopton Road, you have Arrowwood, and companies like Microsoft and Siemens, office buildings there. Then you have a lot of just warehouses because it is close to the airport. And you also have things like the Amazon Distribution Center. Now that is actually on the far north side, which in a lot of ways is often not considered Steele Creek. But when we're speaking to people, it's kind of like that West Charlotte, and that Amazon Distribution Center is kind of like in no man's land almost. It's right on that Catawba River border, which you're going to hop over to Gaston County at that point if you keep going west. And Lake Wylie, all of that is on that western boundary of the Steele Creek area. All right, so those are some of the things that kind of first come to mind. But you also have really good shopping. And so what was once, farmland 20 years ago has now become, home to multiple shopping destinations. So you have the Charlotte Premium Outlets. You have 100 plus, high-end upscale, retail outlet stores. You also have like Rivergate. Rivergate is going to be more of a suburban type feel to it. It's going to have your staples like a Super Target. You're going to have like Marshall's, Kohl's, Best Buys, like 20 plus little, fast food, casual, restaurants, places to eat, and then like 50 or so other just small boutique, shops that you can pick from. So it's going to have like more of that real suburban feel, almost anywhere in America. And so not the high end stuff at like, a lot of these places over in Steele Creek, but Charlotte does have those in other sections for just ease, quality of life. Like you have really good access to things. Arsley, it's kind of spelled a little funny. You have that as one of 2 of the already built mixed use developments. So that's going to be a combination of commercial buildings, you have retail spaces, and then they've put in residential properties that people can live in. And so you have this like live, work, play style, development project. You also have Bearwick. That's another one. And those are completed mixed use development projects that have happened over the past, 10, 15 years. They're really popular sort of central hubs, right? So the Airsley is going to be closest in to Uptown. It's going to be right next to 485. You can really get to a lot of places. You're going to be close to the airport. And so you have those sort of hubs, and one of the big hubs or big development projects that's on its way is the River District. That's 1,400 acres just to the west of the airport. That is pretty much in like phase 1 right now. It's a massive mixed use development plan that's really transforming this area entirely. The other things that are in Steele Creek, you have Carowinds, which is technically in Fort Mill, but remember, Steele Creek is just on the border of South Carolina. And so it's Carowinds Amusement Park's there. You also have like Topgolf is in Steele Creek. There's a good number of things that you can do within Steele Creek. It also gives you really good access to nature. You have the McDowell Nature Preserve. That's 1,200 acres protected wildlife, and that is going to put you right on the shores of Lake Wylie. There's 8 miles of natural trails, playgrounds, recreational things that you can do, 56 campground sites. You have boat launches. You have Copperhead Island. Like, if you want to experience Carolina living, the weather, like, we have so many places like that here. This is definitely one of them. And now only 10% of this McDowell Nature Preserve is, touched or developed at all. 90% of it is untouched. So you have a lot of true wildlife. So it's great for hiking. You can obviously go fishing. You can rent boats on Lake Wylie. We have, there's boat launches there at the McDowell Nature Preserve and other places too along Lake Wylie here. So it's really going to put you right in nature or close to nature, right? When you're thinking about this southwest corridor of Charlotte, because you're right next to the Catawba River, Lake Wylie, it's all connected. And plus you have, these outdoor trails and everything that you can utilize too. There are a couple of other smaller parks like Wingate Park, and there's a greenway in Steele Creek as well. You really, like a lot of this Charlotte area, you will have good access to those things. All right, so one of the things that everybody needs to consider when making a move to the Charlotte area is, of course, drive times, commute times. They pretty much matter for almost everyone, or at least they come into the decision-making process. So if you work from home, great, because there is no commute. That still is something that we're going to obviously factor in because it'll give you more options, right? So I mentioned a few of these spots already, like Airsley is going to give you the shortest commute times because it's right next to 485. You're going to be able to get to, Uptown, which is 11 miles away, in anywhere from 20 minutes, but it can double during peak drive times to 40 minutes, right? That's pretty much the case for a lot of these places. The drive commute times can double during, heavy traffic, but you're going to be 6 miles south of the airport in Airsley, 10 to 15 minutes pretty much. And that's probably going to be the same no matter what, simply because you can take some roads that just aren't going to be that busy to the airport there. You can get down to Ballantyne, which is 10 miles away. You're going to get there in about 15 minutes. Now, because you're going that way down to Ballantyne, I think the commute times are pretty much the same. You can also get to South Park. That's just 8 miles away. That's going to be anywhere from 15 to 35 minutes. Now, if you're out in the Palisades, which is a ways out, to kind of give you some context here, one of the other downsides, I guess, of Steele Creek is you have 2 main roads, right? You have Route 49, which is South Tryon. And South Tryon is going to take, like, when you're in South End on South Boulevard, South Tryon runs, parallel to that. So it's, right out of Uptown. And if you, just take South Tryon out towards Steele Creek, it basically turns into basically Route 49. And then you also have West Boulevard coming out of Uptown. That turns into 160. And so those two intersect in Steele Creek. Now, 160 takes you down to Fort Mill. It's not that far away because you're right on the border of South Carolina. And then if you were to take 49 out, you cross over Lake Wylie, continue on into South Carolina that way. Going back to the commute time, so the Palisades is going to be the furthest out. Now, that is in a world of its own. When they developed that community, which is a massive community, it's pretty much, they've made it so that you don't technically need to leave with all of the amenities there, the stores. Kind of wanted to, it's almost like you're on your own separate little, island, if you will, because it is a long commute. You're going to look at it like anywhere, it's 18 to 24 miles, depending on which way you take from the Palisades to Uptown. That's going to take you anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour Okay, so that's a big factor. I talk to people all the time. They're like, I'd love to just like, let's all move to the Palisades and just like forget it, because, but they can't, because they work in areas where they need to get into every day. It's a little bit just too far of a drive for them. That's a real thing. The airport, you're like 15 miles away from, 30-minute drive. To get to Ballantyne, it's more like a 15-minute drive. And then to South Park, it's going to be pretty similar to Uptown. It's like 30 minutes to an hour, depending on when you go. And so those are big factors if you're thinking about, considering the Steele Creek area. Hey, there was so much information I wanted to share with you that I had to make a second part to this video. So click the link here to watch part 2.